Hey, justice seekers and legal eagles. What if a single, handwritten confession, obtained in a quiet police room, sparked a revolution that forever changed how law enforcement operates across an entire nation? What if the very words "you have the right to remain silent" were born from a case steeped in controversy, a troubled past, and a desperate fight for fundamental rights? Today, we're tearing open the astonishing, often misunderstood, saga of Miranda versus Arizona, the landmark 1966 Supreme Court decision that birthed the famous Miranda warnings. We'll peel back the layers of the legal battle to reveal the man whose name became a household phrase, the shocking details of his interrogation, the intricate legal plots that led to the highest court, and the enduring significance that still shapes every arrest and every courtroom drama. This isn't just about legal precedent. It's a raw, unfiltered journey into the heart of American justice, its flaws, and its relentless pursuit of fairness. Get ready, because the true story of Miranda is a relentless tale of individual rights, police power, and a legacy that still ignites passionate debate today. Our story begins not in a courtroom, but in the dusty, sun-baked landscape of Mesa, Arizona, in 1941. Here, Ernesto Miranda was born into a life that seemed destined for trouble. His childhood was marked by hardship. His mother died young, and he reportedly had a difficult relationship with his father and stepmother, keeping his distance from his siblings. These early struggles set him on a path of delinquency. By the 8th grade, Miranda had his first criminal conviction. The following year, at just 15 years old, he was convicted of burglary and even attempted rape, leading to a year in reform school. His life became a revolving door of arrests and institutions. After his second release from reform school, he drifted through California and the southern United States, spending time in jail for vagrancy in Texas and for driving a stolen car in Tennessee, which landed him a year in federal prison. He was court-martialed twice in the Army and given an undesirable discharge. He was a laborer on a night loading dock for a Phoenix produce company. A man with a long, documented history of brushes with the law and a reputation for pronounced sexual fantasies. Then, on March 13, 1963, fate intervened. The brother of an 18-year-old kidnapping and rape victim spotted Miranda's truck, recognizing the license plates from a description. Miranda, already a person of interest in multiple cases, was arrested at his home as a suspect in both the kidnapping and rape and an earlier armed robbery. Both victims identified him in lineups at the Phoenix Police Department. The stage was set, not just for a criminal trial, but for a legal showdown that would forever alter the balance of power between the individual and the state. After the lineups, the police implied to Miranda that he had been positively identified. He was then placed under arrest and taken to interrogation room number 2 of the Detective Bureau, a small, isolated space designed to elicit confessions. What happened next would become the central, explosive point of contention in a case that would reach the highest court in the land. For 2 grueling hours, Miranda was questioned by 2 detectives. The details of that interrogation remain largely unrecorded, a silent battle of wills behind a closed door. What is known, and what would prove crucial, is that during this entire period, the detectives did not inform Miranda of his right to remain silent, nor of his right to have an attorney present during the questioning. This was standard practice at the time. Police were not legally required to issue such warnings. After those 2 hours, the detectives emerged with a confession. It was handwritten and signed by Miranda himself. The first paragraph of this confession, a chilling detail, read, "I, Ernest A. Miranda, do hereby swear that I make this statement voluntarily and of my own free will, with no threats, coercion, or promises. And with full knowledge of my legal rights, understanding any statement I make may be used against me." This statement, seemingly a declaration of informed consent, would later be revealed as a tragic irony. At his trial for rape and kidnapping, Miranda's defense attorney objected to the admission of this confession into evidence, arguing it was not truly voluntary. However, the objection was overruled. Based largely on this signed confession, and the detective's testimony about an earlier oral confession, Miranda was convicted and sentenced to 20 to 30 years in prison. The Arizona Supreme Court affirmed the conviction, emphasizing that Miranda had not specifically requested an attorney. This was the prevailing legal standard. If you didn't ask, you didn't get. But a quiet legal revolution was brewing, and Miranda's case, along with 3 others, was about to be heard by a Supreme Court determined to redefine justice. The year is 1966. The United States Supreme Court, under the leadership of Chief Justice Earl Warren, was grappling with fundamental questions about individual rights and police power. Miranda's case was consolidated with 3 other similar cases, all involving confessions obtained without explicit warnings of rights. This was no accident. It was a deliberate move by the court to address a systemic issue. The legal arguments were intense, a clash of philosophies about the very nature of justice. Miranda's lawyers argued that his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, the right not to be forced to testify against oneself, and his Sixth Amendment right to counsel, the right to an attorney, had been violated. They contended that custodial interrogation, questioning a suspect while they are in police custody and cut off from the outside world, was inherently coercive. Without proper safeguards, confessions obtained in such environments could not truly be voluntary. They were, in essence, compelled. On June 13, 1966, the Supreme Court delivered its landmark 5-4 majority decision. Chief Justice Warren, writing for the majority, declared that the Fifth Amendment required law enforcement to inform suspects of their constitutional rights before any custodial interrogation. The court reasoned that to protect the privilege against self-incrimination, certain procedural safeguards were absolutely necessary. These safeguards became known as the Miranda warnings. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to talk to a lawyer before being questioned and to have him or her present when being questioned. If you cannot afford a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you prior to any questioning if you so desire. The court ruled that if these warnings were not given, any statements obtained from the interrogation could not be used as evidence at trial. A suspect could waive these rights, but only if they did so knowingly and intelligently, and the burden of proving such a waiver rested squarely on the government. The decision was met with a firestorm of criticism. Dissenting justices, including Tom C. Clark, John M. Harlan, and Byron R. White, argued that the majority's opinion was an unnecessarily strict interpretation of the Fifth Amendment that would curtail the ability of the police to effectively execute their duties. They believed it would destroy the credibility of confessions and had no historical or legal precedent. But the Warren Court had spoken, and the landscape of American criminal justice was forever altered. The Miranda versus Arizona decision immediately sent shockwaves through law enforcement agencies across the United States. Police departments had to fundamentally change their interrogation practices, incorporating the now famous warnings into their daily routines. For civil rights advocates, it was a monumental victory, a crucial step in protecting the rights of the accused and ensuring fairness in the justice system. It reinforced the idea that individuals, even when arrested, retained fundamental constitutional protections against the immense power of the state. However, the ruling also sparked intense controversy that continues to this day. Critics, particularly those concerned with law and order, immediately decried it as soft on crime, arguing that it would make it harder for police to obtain confessions and lead to more criminals going free. Conversely, some civil rights scholars argued that the opinion did not go far enough, believing that true protection required even more stringent safeguards against police coercion. Over the decades, subsequent Supreme Court decisions have both affirmed and subtly restricted the application of Miranda warnings, adding layers of nuance and complexity to its legacy. For instance, the court clarified that Miranda warnings are not required if a suspect is not in custody, e.g., merely being questioned voluntarily. A public safety exception was carved out, allowing police to question suspects without warnings in situations of immediate threat to public safety. Later rulings also stipulated that a suspect must actively invoke their right to remain silent, rather than simply remaining silent, and that silence alone does not automatically invoke the right. And what of Ernesto Miranda himself, the man whose name became synonymous with this legal revolution? After his initial conviction was overturned, the state of Arizona retried him. This time, his confession was excluded from evidence. However, he was convicted again in 1967, largely based on testimony given by his estranged common-law wife. He was sentenced to 20 to 30 years in prison, paroled in 1972. In a bizarre twist, he began selling autographed Miranda warning cards for $1.50. His life continued to be troubled by minor arrests and legal issues. Tragically, Ernesto Miranda was stabbed to death in a bar fight in 1976 at the age of 34. The man who gave his name to a fundamental right died a violent, anonymous death, a stark reminder of the complex realities that legal principles often intersect with. So, what are we to make of Miranda versus Arizona? The case that etched a phrase into the American consciousness and forever changed the rules of engagement between citizens and law enforcement. It's a story of profound significance, a testament to the enduring struggle for individual liberties in the face of state power. The Miranda warnings are now an ingrained part of popular culture, a symbol of constitutional rights. They represent a crucial safeguard against coerced confessions, a vital protection for the vulnerable, and a constant reminder that even in custody, every individual has a voice and the right to keep it silent. Yet, the legacy of Miranda is not without its paradoxes. It was born from a troubled individual's confession, sparked a fierce backlash, and has been continually refined and debated by the courts. It highlights the constant tension in a democratic society between the need for effective law enforcement and the imperative to protect individual freedoms. Miranda's tale forces us to confront uncomfortable questions. How far should the state go to secure a conviction? What is the true meaning of a voluntary confession? And how do we ensure that justice is not just served, but seen to be served for every individual, regardless of their background? The silent right continues to echo, a powerful reminder that the fight for a truly just system is an ongoing one. What do you think about Miranda versus Arizona? Do you believe the warnings go too far, or not far enough? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if this journey into the heart of American justice intrigued you, hit that subscribe button. Because here, we're always unearthing the most compelling, controversial, and utterly vital stories that shape our world. See you in the next one.